Else who's waiting for spring, the warm part of spring to arrive? Sure has been cold and gloomy out there for mid-May. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Matt, what is causing this long stretch of cool weather, and are we ever going to see 70 degrees?
I tell you what, Pat, we've hit 70 a couple of times, but it's been very, very sporadic. And before I get into what's causing it, I want to dig into the numbers because they're really pretty impressive. So what I did is I looked at the numbers from April 1st until yesterday, May 12th. And the reason I chose that period is because we had some warm weather in late March, so I wanted to leave that out. And spring began, March 20th, so we're really going for most of spring so far. And here's what the number, and by the way, this graphic, I'll get back to this later in just a minute. But look at this. Our average high temperature from April 1st through yesterday, 58.9 degrees. Last year, same time period, nearly 10 degrees warmer, 67.8. That is a huge difference, and that holds for the low temperature and for the average temperature as well. This has been our coldest April 1st to May 12th in over 10 years. You got to go back to 2011, the last time we had a period like this that was colder than what we've been experiencing for the last 6 weeks. Okay, so those are the temperatures. Cold, we know that, and the numbers bear it out. What about the rainfall? Even more striking, as a matter of fact. Since the beginning of April, we've had 7.46 inches of rain. Last year, 0.46. So we've had 7 more inches of rain in the last 6 weeks compared to last year. And that 7.46, that is the wettest ever April 1st to May 12th period in the history of Portland, of record keeping in Portland. So incredibly impressive there with the rainfall. I mean, you got to remember, last year was extremely dry and extremely warm, but this year has been the opposite. So, to your question, what is causing this? Well, the answer goes to something we talk about quite a bit. We talked about it back in the fall, La Nina. And each La Nina is different from the next, and they change. They're dynamic. They're not static throughout the course of a fall and winter. And what happened this winter is La Nina got stronger in late winter. And I believe that's what's really driving our cool, wet spring. So let's look at that. Let me show you what La Nina looks like. Here's that graphic again, but we'll put this in motion. Here's Asia, here's the Pacific Ocean, Hawaii, here's North America, Portland right up here. This is looking at basically a cross-section of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. And you got to remember, La Nina and El Nino, either one, it's not just the ocean temperatures. We look at that to kind of define how strong it is or whether or not it even exists. But it's coupled to the atmosphere. It drives what happens in the atmosphere. And what we've seen through late winter and into early April was this big pool of much below average water, not only at the surface, but at depth, all the way down to, say, 600 feet. So that has been driving the weather pattern that has kept us cool and wet. It shifts all the warm water to the far western Pacific. That in turn changes where we get the thunderstorms and the moisture and the energy going into the atmosphere. That changes the orientation and positioning of the jet stream. So again, this is showing us how La Nina is. The other thing this is showing us is because there's all of this very much colder than average water way down at depth, that makes us think that La Nina is likely to continue not only through spring and summer, but even into fall, which would be really unusual. Now, it could peter out and change, but right now the odds are stacked that La Nina will continue through summer and into fall, making this a three-peat La Nina because we had La Nina last year, we have it this year. If we have it again this coming winter season, that would be 3 in a row. That's only happened twice since 1950. Highly unusual to get back-to-back-to-back La Ninas. And if we do, that means we can expect more cool and wet weather in the spring and the summer, and then especially into winter. Now, having said that, Pat, remember, last year was a La Nina. We were coming out of a La Nina in the spring, and we had our hottest weather ever in Portland, and not just by a little, by a lot, when we hit 116 degrees back in late June. So it doesn't mean that the whole rest of spring, all of summer, will be cool and wet. There will be variations. We will get some warm and eventually hot weather this summer, but that's what's driving it, La Nina.
Wow. So now when folks say, what's up with the weather? Now we all know. Matt always knows, but now we know as well. Thanks for educating us, Matt.
Yeah, no problem.